Pasadena is kind of EV central. We have the highest number of registered EVs than any other Southern California utility. In fact, we have more EVs than 21 states, not combined, but individually. So it's a lot of cars there. But charging is a big deal for these people. The electric industry is 19% of the greenhouse gas emissions in California, but transportation is 45% when you count the refining capabilities. So there's a huge market potential for cleaning up the air. And if you look at who's making progress in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, almost everybody else is either flat or going up. The only sector that's going down is the electric industry since 1990, and it's going down even more and more and more. As the grid gets cleaner, the transportation fuel gets cleaner, and it helps everybody out. And that got the attention of regulators. Let's talk about charging plazas. We have the normal programs a lot of utilities have. We incentivize cars, new and used lease purchases. We incentivize chargers for homes and businesses. But charging plazas are something that we're really big on as well. These are large installations, typically at least 20 chargers minimum. We use a very sophisticated load management system that's done by a company called PowerFlex, which started in Pasadena and Caltech. 2019 was also when we built first big public fast charging plaza using DC fast charging. This is the Marengo Charging Plaza. It's about a 4-story parking structure right next to the convention center, across the street from a big mall called the Paseo. It's the largest fast charging plaza in the country. Pasadena Del Mar. This is where a light rail station comes in. It's kind of mixed use. It has commercial, residential upstairs. They have sort of an indoor train station for light rail, the Gold Line. And this had a few chargers that we put in a while back, a DC fast charger and a couple level 2 chargers.
And so today I'm here to talk about one of those specific projects, which is the zero emission multiple unit. The railroads are regulated by the Federal Railroad Administration. So they're eventually the agency that they were working with to go through the regulatory approval process to get this, first of its kind type of train in the US. Then we also have Stallard, which is the vehicle manufacturer. They have a plant here in Salt Lake City based out of Switzerland. So they're the very key partner, of course, in the vehicle development. We also have Metrolink. So Metrolink is the regional commuter rail system in Southern California. They actually operate similar vehicles for the aero service here in between San Bernardino and Redlands. When we embarked the project, as I mentioned, it was broken out into 3 different phases: our planning efforts, design and design, the design, and then the implementation phase. And so early on, what we did is we reached out to a lot of other sister agencies, Sunline Transit, and other operators. We went to the ports to try to, utilize some of the knowledge that's being done, embarking on some of these zero emission efforts, both on the battery, hydrogen. And so the purpose for us was to try to get some information to help us develop a set of criteria that we would then apply to different technologies that exist in the rail industry to see, what would be some of the key factors that would help us determine what kind of technology eventually you wanted to pick and go with for a train vehicle. So once we work through those, kind of key factors to evaluate these different technologies, we were comparing it against our baseline, and our baseline being is the actual rail vehicles that we have in operations today. And so when we looked at all those different technologies, we first wanted to find out which technologies would be compatible. And on the train side, there's systems that provide power externally. That's called wayside power. So what happens is very common ones, like is in the light rail industry. So if you go to like downtown LA or downtown San Diego, you see like the overhead catenaries, right? That is, wayside power itself. We also looked at supercapacitors. There's the technology out there for that as well, very similar. Hydrogen fuel cells, another one. And then these other ones like, biofuel or natural gas. In late 2019 is when we first signed the contract with the vehicle manufacturer and then undertake the conceptual design and final design of the vehicle. The difference being that in the middle of this, what we have is what's called the power pack. The power pack is for the vehicles that are currently in operation. They have 2 diesel engines. These vehicles are modular. So if ridership increases, you can always add more passenger cabs in the middle. And the zero emission multiple unit vehicle, the power pack is really the difference. Is that's where we have it has the hydrogen fuel cells and the hydrogen storage tanks.
We're working in 4 key areas with state departments of transportation developing zero emission vehicle plans, also advancing airport zero emission vehicle plans, a lot of those on the West Coast. You can see California and Washington State, and then supporting transit ZEV transitions. So our work most recently focuses in those 4 areas, but it's a $9.5 billion initiative in investing in clean hydrogen initiatives, or hydrogen hubs that they're calling it. One of the reasons I wanted to just pull this one out is it really emphasizes some of the key elements of challenges and opportunities around building out hydrogen infrastructure. So hydrogen is really a focus for the heaviest duty vehicles that need to move long distances and don't have either the amount of battery capacity available or the time to recharge. These are kind of the core areas that we see hydrogen really solving for, that energy density, getting vehicles the amount of range they need and the time on task for refueling to really perform their services. But the key challenges with hydrogen are making sure you have clean hydrogen production. So we just heard about some of the sources regionally for that train project for clean hydrogen production, but it's important that the source of the hydrogen be clean and also the distribution, and number 2 here, be clean. So, there are projects where, you could have clean hydrogen being delivered on diesel tanker trucks. That's what we're trying to avoid here. And so where the Department of Energy is funding these hubs so that you can have clean production, clean processing and delivery, and clean end use. Really, when it comes to hydrogen, it's about building these regional ecosystems for that clean production, clean processing and delivery, so that the end use, the actual zero emissions, can be a true zero emission vehicle. We have electric transmission lines, natural gas transmission lines, but we don't yet have a national network of hydrogen distribution. So that's one of the key challenges that need to be built out, and making sure the region coordinates around how to get from that clean production through the clean distribution is really the focus of this slide, and establishing those shovel-ready projects.
So one of the things that SCAG is great about is its richness in resources, the diversity in thinking, and geography and perspective. We have a lot of programs to meet the environmental mandates that we are, what we saw in our last slide, what we are tasked with. And we do our best to meet the environmental, economic, and equity goals through really comprehensive planning. But still today, we have some of the worst air quality. 9% of children under 17 have asthma. It's just unacceptable. So there's a really strong public health component to this issue. Transportation is a significant source of both criteria and greenhouse gas pollutants. So AQMD shows that in 2018, transportation sources are responsible for roughly 85% of the NOx emissions and 29% of the PM 2.5 emissions in the South Coast Air Basin. And statewide, mobile sources are responsible for 41% of GHG. So existing conditions, a couple times, zero emission sales in 2022 were 18.38% of total light duty sales. Sounds great. That's 2.8% of the fleet. We're a long way off. And we have to take a look at what that means. And one thing we don't want to do with policy, and we tend to do it, is we don't want to squash innovation. We don't want it to be that electric is the only answer. And I'll address that in some of the policies and the legislative platforms that SCAG is taking later on. But imagine that by 2022, it requires the Clean Cars Act that in August 2022 requires that by 2035, 100% of the new passenger car sales to be zero emission. That would result in roughly 8 million EVs. Now, Sunline was the first hydrogen fuel cell bus system in the country. And we use hydrogen fuel cell. And part of the reason too is because of the heat that we have, electricity and batteries are challenged. We're going to be engaging the region. Please, I hope you can get your agencies, your students to speak up, and so that we hear their voice, so we come up with the best product, our best Connect SoCal. It will help reinforce the vision for zero emissions. And one of the greatest things that SCAG does is accumulates and shares information. We have an amazing data platform. We're creating a medium and heavy duty zero emissions roadmap to further a zero emission goods movement system. The goods movement system is a huge issue, and we know it in areas like this. It's right in front of us, going through the Coachella Valley. We have to address that. And it is critical for our health, and also the supply chain issue, which you mentioned. We have to make sure we're working on that, to make sure that we have the clean technology to provide for the future.